Hey everybody, it's nice to be back with you again today. I've been working on this lesson for you and I think you're really going to like it. I hope so. I like it. Last week our lesson was on one of the parables that Jesus told. Remember, a parable is something that Jesus told to try to make us understand something that he came to teach us. Today I'm going to tell you about a miracle. A miracle is something that Jesus or God did or does. It's not made up, it's true. It's something that either really happened or is going to happen. I know some of you know what a miracle is, but just remember, it's something that only God or Jesus can do. But before I tell you the story, I'm going to read you a Bible verse that goes along with our lesson today. It's in Matthew chapter 19, verse 26. That's Matthew is in which part of the Bible? Old Testament or New Testament? Yep, it's in the New Testament. It's actually the first book in the New Testament. This story is actually in the first 4 books in the New Testament: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And what do we call those 4 books? Yep, the Gospels. Good job. So it's in Matthew chapter 19, so that's the big 19, and the little 26. It says, "But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, With men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." So let's not forget that. Some things look like they should be possible, but in reality they're not. Y'all know what some of those things are? One of them is sneezing with your eyes open. Did you know you can't sneeze with your eyes open? Can't do it. Another one is being able to tickle yourself. Someone else can tickle you, but you can't tickle yourself. It doesn't work. Can't tickle yourself. And another thing that looks like it would be possible, but it's really not, is really neat. Watch this. So you put your hand on the table. See if I can get it where you can see it. Bend your middle finger back. See, I bent my middle finger back. And I can lift my thumb and leave the other ones on the table. I can lift my ring finger and leave the other ones on the table. I can lift my pinky and leave the other ones on the table. But you know what? I can't lift my ring finger, which is this one, without picking up one of my other fingers. See that? It came up a little bit, but my pinky's in the air. I can't do it without lifting the other fingers. So if you just looked at my hand right here, you would think I'd be able to do any of them, because I can do those 3 easily, but I can't do the ring finger. So this is an example of something that looks like it will be possible, but in reality it's impossible. Some things look like they'd be impossible, but if you know how to do it, they're actually possible. And one such thing is a piece of paper. If I have this piece of paper and ask you, okay, can you step through this piece of paper? Because I can. You're going to look and you're going to like, no, there's no way I could step through that piece of paper. But watch this. We'll see. To do this, you're going to need a piece of paper. It's just a regular piece of paper and a pair of scissors. Don't any of you get scissors without asking your mom or dad first. All right, so you take your piece of paper, you fold it in half long ways. Just like that. See that? I'm going to show you something that you think's impossible that's actually possible. So I fold it in half. And see, I've got the folded side on the bottom. So I'm going to cut some strips about 1 inch or so apart. Cut all the way up, almost to the top. Don't go all the way. And keep going all the way down your piece of paper. Make sure that you keep them about the same distance apart, but do not cut all the way to the end. Y'all could probably do this a lot faster than I can, because you know I'm not that good at stuff. with my hands, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. All right, so I've cut strips all the way down. Now I'm gonna turn it over and I'm gonna cut strips from the open side in between every one of these. So I'm gonna cut up and go almost to the end. Don't cut all the way. We'll see if this will work, if it's going to show you something that looks impossible, but it's actually possible. So go all the way to the end, cutting each one of those first strips that you did. Cut each one in half. Just don't go all the way to the end. Almost got them. Now everybody, I've only practiced this twice, so if it doesn't work, we'll blame Chris. How about that? All right, so I've got this all cut, all the strips. All right, then you're going to go down, see where this is, they're open. Well, if I can cut them up, pull it open. They're open down here on the end, but they're closed on this end. You're going to cut each one of those closed ones apart, except for the first and last one. Don't cut the first and last one. So let me see if I can do that. Maybe I should have had Chris or Carter or somebody do this today. Y'all will be able to do this a lot easier than me. Y'all know Miss Terry's not the best at stuff like this. Well, this was much easier when I wasn't videoing. Just cut through the strips. Remember, don't cut through the very first one and don't cut through the very last one. Almost got it. I'm working on it. I'm trying to hurry. Those of y'all that know me are, I'm sure, getting a really big kick out of this because y'all love to see me try to do crazy stuff like this. Because I am crazy. But that's okay. God loves me. And then I've got one more. If I can get it apart. Maybe. All right, got them all cut. I didn't cut through the first one and the last one. Y'all see that? All right, now let's see. If I open it up all the way, it's actually been big enough for me to put it over me and the chair and come out at the bottom. So I'm gonna leave it down there. So that was something that looked impossible, didn't it? To step through that one piece of paper. Step through one piece of paper. Looked impossible, but it could actually be done if you know the plan. But you know what? I knew something else that's even more amazing than that. And I read it to you earlier in the Bible. Do you remember? It said in Matthew chapter 19 verse 26 that with men things are impossible, but with God all things are possible. So nothing's impossible with God. There's a lot of stories in the Bible that tell us about miracles that God and Jesus did. They were things that we would call impossible, but to God they're nothing. They're easy. We call these miracles because only God or Jesus can do them. So I'm going to tell you the story about that I was reading about this week that has to do with a miracle that Jesus did. And I'm sure a lot of you know it. I know I've read it a lot. I've read it to my class. It's one of my favorites. And so I'm sure some of you have heard it before, but some of you want to hear it for the first time. So I hope you enjoy it. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. And it tells about Jesus that if you're willing to trust Jesus and believe that he can do miracles, that anything can happen, and that he can use even a little person, even somebody that's only 5, 6 years old or even younger, to do his will if we're just trusting and have faith in him. All right, let me read it to you. It said, this story is about a miracle. If you don't know what a miracle is, you will by the end of this story. Just remember that only God can do miracles, and he still does them today. Jesus had sent the 12 disciples out into the country and gave them the power to heal sick people and tell others about God's love. When the disciples returned, they met with Jesus to tell him about all the people that they had been with, and they were very excited to tell Jesus about their adventures. The problem was, people followed the disciples because they wanted to find Jesus. They had seen the miracles he had done, and they wanted to see some more. But Jesus knew the disciples wanted to talk to him. They hadn't even had a chance to catch up yet, and they hadn't even had a chance to eat. But they were getting hungry. So he told the disciples, come with me and we'll find a quiet place to talk and get some rest. So they went away by themselves in a boat to go to a quiet place. But you know what happened? Some of the people saw them leaving, and they recognized who it was, and they ran as fast as they could around the lake that the disciples and Jesus went on so that they could beat them to the other side. So the people got to the other side of the shore before them. When Jesus and the disciples arrived, they noticed a large crowd, and that wasn't just 10 to 20 people. That wasn't even 100 to 200 people. That was over 5,000 people. That's a whole lot of people. He knew that the disciples would understand, so he began teaching the crowds. He couldn't just leave them without hearing about God. It was getting near the end of the day, and none of the people had had supper yet. The disciples came to Jesus and said, there's no food around here, and it's getting late. Maybe we should send the people away so they can go to a surrounding town and get them something to eat. But Jesus told them, says, you give them something to eat. But the disciples didn't understand what he said. They said, we can't feed all these people. We'd have to work almost a year to pay for all that food. And while the disciples were talking to Jesus, one of the disciples named Andrew noticed a small boy walking by with his lunch. He stopped the boy and asked him what he had. And Andrew quickly ran over to where the disciples were talking to Jesus and said, here's a boy, and he has 5 small loaves of bread and 2 small fish. But how far is that going to go amongst this many people? I don't know about you, but at my house, 5 small pieces of bread and 2 small fish wouldn't even feed my 15-year-old Carter. So I wouldn't get very far. But Jesus just smiled at them and he said, ask everybody to sit down. So there was lots of grass for everybody to sit on, so they all sat down, all 5,000 of them. After everyone was seated, Jesus took the loaves of bread and thanked God for it. Then the disciples passed around the bread and the fish, and everyone could take as much as they wanted. Remember those 5 loaves of bread and the 2 little fish that I told you about? There were over 5,000 people eating them. And you know what? They got all they wanted. And they not only just got all they wanted, but the disciples actually took up 12 basketfuls of leftovers. Could you imagine? Out of that food, the 5 loaves and 2 fish, the disciples got 12 baskets full of leftovers. That little boy's small lunch barely filled one of those baskets before Jesus touched it. But after Jesus touched it, those 5 loaves and 2 fish fed over 5,000 people with leftovers. feeding 5,000 people with just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish would be impossible for me or you to do. But like the Bible says in today's verse, with God, all things are possible. He can do anything. All right, I hope you all enjoyed this lesson today about nothing being impossible with God. Have a little homework for you. I know, you probably thought you'd had enough homework, but this will be fun. For you older kids, I want you to try to do the trick that I did, stepping through the paper. I want you to try to do that for your parents. And little kids, I want you to draw a picture. I want you to draw a picture with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish on it and tell somebody in your family about it. And grown-ups, usually I try to teach the kids that they can draw, because I can't draw hardly at all. So if I can do it, they can do it. So an easy way to draw some fish and loaves of bread or pieces of bread is for the bread you put a square and a big hump on top. And for a fish, you do an oval, that's like an egg, with a triangle on the end for the tail, a number 3 for the fins, and a little dot for his eye. So I would love it if some of you can do some of these and have your mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, whoever's with you to send me a picture of it, because I would love to see what you're doing, because I miss all of you so much. And I want you to take care, let your parents know that you love them, and I will talk to you probably in a few days, or at least by the end of next week. Take care. Bye-bye.